And do you believe you can do anything? But what you gonna do for it? How you gonna move for it? What you gonna be?
So, I've decided to change up the exhaust a bit on my M104 turbo swapped W203, aka the Ricer Benz, for obvious reasons. Yep, not your average C180. This is the 76mm or 3-inch exhaust I've been running on the car since I built it. Not your average looking exhaust, but this is about as straight pipe as it gets. Unbelievably, I haven't seen any cracks anywhere on the exhaust, seeing that it is one solid piece from where it bolts on to the turbo all the way back to the tip. It does have this one janky flange I made. Hey, if it works, it works. Then once we're done with that, all the way at the end of the exhaust, we're going to be adding this 76mm muffler. I will add that if it were up to me, and the fact that it's extremely illegal, but I would have loved to have a hood exit exhaust on the 3.2 litre inline 6-cylinder. I mean, can you imagine that? I'll also admit, with this 10-meter long straight pipe exhaust, the car was kind of raspy. So hopefully adding the muffler to the end of the exhaust is going to take care of that. So I'm going to get started on this side of the exhaust. So the downpipe, I'm going to start off by cutting those flanges I made out and getting the proper flanges in there. And then we'll move on to the flex hose. Now, just to kind of explain what I've managed so far, I have the exhaust lined up over here now that the first piece, which is the downpipe, is ready to get tack welded on the car. Speaking of welding, I always disconnect the battery before welding on the car. Just as a safety precaution, I really don't want to fry the standalone ECU. Anyway, I already went under the car and marked out the best orientation for this flange, making sure these 3 bolts will be easily accessible once the exhaust is on the car. That will just make life a bit easier for in the future when I want to remove the exhaust. I can get to all the bolts easily. So I just took a Sharpie and marked over there and over there. So now this will just go over. There we go. Slide over just like that. The nice thing about this is once we start test fitting everything, there's still some adjustability on this thing. We'll do the same over on this side here in a second, but before then I do want to get some pie cuts out of the piece over here. So I already measured out the exact length of the flex that we'll be adding over here. So I want to use some of this piece that I'm going to cut off to get some extra pie cuts for when we move on to the muffler at the back. Once we're done with all of that, we'll move on to over here and then cut a piece of the exhaust off and then use the pie cuts to route the pipe into the muffler. I also still need to figure out the self-clearance issue to make that look a bit better, but we'll get to that when we get to it. For now, let's get those pie cuts cut out and then start fitting the pieces onto the car and start welding. Well, apparently I still can't TIG weld to save my life. Welding with a TIG welder is truly an art form. We ran out of daylight, so I came into the workshop to make some gaskets for in between each flange. I used 1mm thick aluminium once again because, well, it worked pretty well on the old flange that I made. I honestly really enjoy working on cars, but working under a car, well, let's just say that's not the most fun part of it all. Especially because this one has the biggest oil leak in the world. Everything down there is just caked in oil and yeah, just not a very fun experience. One day I will get around to fixing that oil leak. I just need to figure out where the hell it's leaking from. Not entirely happy with how low it sits, but I guess we'll have to see once we lower the car back down. I really hope it won't be an issue because I really don't want to change it up again. Moving on to the back, I already went ahead and got some exhaust hangers on the muffler, so now that's ready to go. Now comes the fun part of using some pie cuts and then getting the muffler onto here and then connecting that pipe with the muffler. But I am really excited to hear this thing. I think the muffler is going to quiet down the car a bit, but we need to remember that the wastegate is still just a screamer pipe, so looking forward to hear the car, especially under boost. But let's get to it and finish up this exhaust so we can hear it. I saw this quote the other day that says, grinder and paint make me the welder I ain't, and in this case that is extremely true. But after cleaning up the pipe a bit, getting some of the rust off, I did also get some paint onto the exhaust, and I think it didn't turn out too bad. And there we have it, the finished product that is ready to go back onto the car. So we have the downpipe, we have an old O2 sensor to cover up that bung for if and when we want to tune the car. We just remove that one, get the FR gauge in there, ready to rock and roll. They have the nuts and bolts, gasket for the flanges. Moving back, we have the gearbox mount over there, we have its hardware, we have the flex hose in there, gasket for between them, and then moving all the way back we have the muffler. Also got those hangers on like I said, and then we have the exhaust rubbers. So yeah, without further ado, like I said, I'm super excited to get this thing on the car, hear how it sounds. So let's get it on there, check for leaks, and if all goes well, we'll go out and take it for a test drive. Wow, it sounds so good. And I already went down there to hear if I can hear any leaks, exhaust leaks, but there are none. So let's get it back on the ground and then take it out and go make some noises. It's so quiet, but it sounds so good. Alright, so I made it out here. The car's just standing over here purring away, but I do want to show you guys a before and after clip. So here's how the exhaust sounded before the muffler and the new exhaust system, and then we'll get after of how it sounds now. Yep, I think it's much better than before, but I also have this one clip where I strap the GoPro to the back, so there's another before and after on a pull. Much more quiet now, and I can't believe I didn't do this sooner. I'm really happy with the results, and I'm curious to hear the screamer pipe when it opens once we get into boost. So I'm gonna do a small pull here and I guess just enjoy the sounds. Up until you hit boost, screamer pipe opens up, and then it's all the noises. I'm really happy with the results. Anyway, I think that's going to be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and then I'll see you in the next one.